why they will change when they go to Washington. If you go into legislative office especially as a career, it's your job, and everybody wants to be promoted in their job. We all do. If I'm in a career, I'm in a job, I want to get promoted, I want the boss to say, oh, nice, good job. If you go to Congress and your goal is to make that Congress a career, the way you get promoted is to advance on certain committees, be given certain gavels, be given a subcommittee chair, a regular chair, better office. These are normal things. But once you're on that track, they've got you. Because they can withhold those things. They have nothing I want. And I mean that. I mean, people say you've been working in DC for, 20 years doing policy work. Can you really, can you represent us? The good thing of my working there is I know what's there. I've met them all. There are no stars to wow me. So absolutely, of course, I would not vote for that.
Any time for debates?
I would like to have, I think this tonight was going to be at one point, but I understand session does step up and you can't plan for that. I know there are many counties, and I believe Adams County too, that are looking to schedule candidate forums. I'm available for all of them whenever they have them. I think we should have as many debates as possible. The challenges are that big. For too long, this district has been out of touch with the political debate. When you had Bob Michael decades ago arguing against the Reagan tax cuts. You had Ray LaHood refusing to sign the contract with America. We haven't been part of that dialogue in those cases. So as many debates as we possibly can have, I think the voters deserve that. So I hope so. I hope there's a lot of debates.
Mike, you and I met briefly last Saturday during the parade. I had a nice visit with your parents. And I'm good at asking pretty stupid questions, so let me ask one now. Why did you and your people not walk with the Republicans in the parade?
It was no decision not to. It was, we got our own float. You go and you sign up for a float.
That still could have been with the Republicans, though, because they're the people who are going to vote for you. The Republican activists.
Maybe they don't do that.
Disagree with you.
Parade.
I think a lot of individual campaigns normally do their own float.
No.
It's more unusual that a campaign would not do its own float. I think that's the larger question.
Most people who are running were in the Republican parade.
Are they running in 2 months?
No, but they're running next year.
I believe there are individual floats of people running. Gary Farr was like up ahead of me, like 2 slots. He's running next year.
He's the one who wasn't in, everybody else was.
I don't think that's a
There were
question
two
for
that
me.
weren't.
I think that's a question for the Hood campaign. I wanted to have my own float because Quincy's celebrating 175 years, its anniversary. My family's been here 145 of those years. I wanted my own float in the Dogwood Parade. I'm not gonna rely on other people to have a float for me. I scrounged up the $25. I filled out the form. It took about 7 minutes. I think the better question is why they didn't have a float.
Mike, I think most of the people in this room, along with myself, supported Governor Roundup in his election campaign. And we heard a lot from him about what he wanted to do to change the direction of this state and what needs to be done in Springfield is kind of a microcosm of what needs to be done in Washington. And Bruce Browner is now running into the reality of facing a legislature that is primarily of the opposite party and certainly primarily of the opposite belief that he has. Bruce wasn't a perfect candidate for me, but he was conservative enough that I decided to support him. And we got him elected, and now he has a huge road to hoe. And of course, we try to be supportive of him.
Right.
And I know what you're gonna run into, I think I know what you're gonna run into in Washington, DC. And I know what the problem is. I mean, you've just laid it out for us what the problem is. But what kind of concrete things do you want to do that would bring about some of those changes in Washington and, of course, bring about benefits to me and the rest of the people in there?
Right, no, that's a good question. And Governor Rauner, I mean, all credit to him for stepping up and recognizing what the real root of the challenges are in Illinois. And it's going to be a hard fight. But he is addressing on the right problems. Just because it's a hard fight doesn't mean you shouldn't take it on. And what he's identified is exactly what has to happen. Otherwise, again, math takes over and nothing else works. So he's picking the right fight. DC is slightly different because here you have a very gerrymandered state legislature that is going to be very hard to crack right now. There are, though, you know, it always amazes me when you look, and they always talk about partisan composition of districts and all this. And they call it things like R plus or D plus, you know, how it leans. You will always see Democrats in R plus districts. You almost never see a Republican in a D plus district. Why is that? Why did 3 million white working class voters stay at home in Ohio in 2012? Give them a choice. Now in Washington, what I can do is join the ones who are there. We have the numbers, actually. You know? Republicans control the House. Republicans control the Senate. I don't understand it, except I think they're afraid of the fight. What we can do is join together and take the fight on. There's a reason you have elections, and there's a reason you have even like a sporting event. You don't just say, oh, well, this person has these stats, this person has that stats, game's decided. Let's not even jump the ball. Kentucky's gonna win. Well, there's a reason you have the game. You can't win a fight you're not gonna have. And when you take the fight to the other side, they then have a problem. Rauner's doing that here. It's going to be tough. We can do that in DC. It's less tough. We got to at least try it. Any other questions? Yeah, thanks.
More of a comment. It's less of a fight here, more of a fight there, because I think the leadership is afraid of not only the Democrats, but the drive-by media.
They are terrified of the media. And again, I go back to like, I used to think the media was generally biased. I now know they're actively on the other side. But what I also learned from Andrew is they're kind of a paper tiger. And when they're throwing out hateful things and trying to smear you, the key is not to run away. The key is to keep walking into it. They are losing their power. There are multiple resources now where people get news. I saw a thing, I'm not even, but why the Republican Party still like lets MSNBC moderate presidential debates is political malpractice. No, it is. Look, at some point, you've got to realize that they're not going to like me, and I don't care if they don't like me. It is a buzzsaw. That's why I'm running, because that's one area where I can bring unique skills to help on this. Because I've had so many death threats. I've been tracked by the media so many times. I don't care.
Mike, I think you have a great perspective on Washington DC, and I think that's one of your strengths. Who would you like to see as speaker in 2017? I'm assuming it's not Boehner.
Well, as of this date, it wouldn't be Boehner, but I always hold out the hope that a sinner can be redeemed. I know Boehner. He's a good guy. There was a time he was a strong conservative, and I think he personally is a conservative. They're so terrified of the press. I mean, Boehner was on Meet the Press Sunday. All this Baltimore stuff is going on. All of the unrest that has been fomented and created in a lot of cases. And he says, yeah, you know, I think we do have a real policing problem in this country and their relations with the inner city. What? I mean, there are certainly some reforms maybe we need to do, but when you're in the middle of a witch hunt, to add fuel to that, of course you're going to lose the politics. The speaker should not be doing that. The speaker should be the voice of the caucus. It should be a voice of ideas. The speaker doesn't even have to be a member of the House. So I don't know. You can't just vote for a ghost. Somebody's going to have to step up if it's not him. And then we'll decide. There's a lot in the next 2 or 3 months. There are a lot of challenges coming. Big ones. There's going to be a big push for a gas tax increase. Republicans are lining up behind that. We'll see how it goes.
Would you have, I'll clean it up too, the nerve to step up and vote to repeal Obamacare? Not repeal and replace, but just flat repeal Obamacare.
And sponsor that bill.
Thank you. Next question.
But not just this theater of, yeah, we're voting to repeal. I mean, you've got to go through every appropriations bill and pull out that funding. Each day, here's what's going to happen, and it's already starting to happen. Every day that's on the books, not only does it distort the healthcare system, it distorts the providers of healthcare. And pretty soon, we're at a point where they've figured out some business model to make Obamacare work for them in some way. And then they won't want to change it.
And what about your views on the Department of Education?
You know what I'd like to do? Department of Education, look, that's a little game state legislators play a lot. There should be no Department of Education. I mean, let's just get that out of the way. The federal government provides about 10 cents on the dollar for education spending in this country. Say no. They can't make you take it. Supreme Court's decided. You say no, you're free of all those federal mandates, all those rules, all those regulations. I bet those are worth a lot more than 10 cents on the dollar. So as your state legislators, you're always complaining. I see Laura nodding, she knows. You complain about the feds, just say no. You can do it. One other thing I'd like to do, somebody actually mentioned this to me, and the more I think about it, it's a brilliant idea. Why are all the federal agencies in Washington, D.C.? 8 of the 10 richest counties in this country are in the D.C. metro area. That's a problem. It's like Hunger Games. Why couldn't the Department of Labor be in Detroit? Why not the Department of Agriculture in Springfield or Omaha? Department of Interior in Boise?
Immigration in Texas.
Yeah, why not? Why not put them where the problems are? I mean, part of the problem with DC is that you drive around there, you'll see construction cranes everywhere. They've never had a recession in that town. So they don't even understand what any of us are talking about. But why not move the agencies out? Detroit could sure use the jobs. But you also put it closer to where their work is supposed to be. There's a great thing I saw the other day, and I can't even believe I'm saying this, but Canada had this great idea. Canada now has a regulatory budget. So they tell an agency, for every new regulation you come up with, you have to repeal an equivalent regulation.
Wow. That is amazing.
Canada. But what that does is that forces the agency to prioritize. Because right now you have them, they're making up work to do. When you tell them, yeah, you can do this regulation, you're gonna have to get rid of one. Oh, okay, well, is this, make them make the choices we make all the time. There's no reason you can't do that. Unless you just don't even want to have the debate. All right. Okay, one more.
Okay. Well, first, I like your idea. I've been trying to see that for some time. Say every new ordinance you add, take away 2. I haven't gotten too far, but maybe if you get in there, you can talk to some of our city council members. That's a great.
There's
great
one state
program.
legislature, I can't remember, they actually had an entire session that's only devoted to repealing laws.
We got to do that, not just the federal level, state and local as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of
The
just
code
crazy
book
stuff.
in the city is like this, and it's like, are we that bad? Do we need a code book that thick?
I guarantee you, each of us, from the time you left your home and by the time you go back home tonight to go to bed, you will have probably broken 5 laws.
Mike, on Common Core, working with the state and letting them decide, or going all the way up?
Common Core, no. No Common Core.
Yeah. Get rid of it.
You gotta get rid of it. This is where, again, don't take the money. I mean, to some degree, you can't, like, on the one hand say, yes, I want the federal money, and then say, oh yeah, but you can't have any guidelines. Now, Common Core is uniquely bad because it got hijacked by a bunch of left progressives. But all of these things are solved if you just say no. I can do it on 90 cents. I don't need that dime. My God, they will go apoplectic. If you just got that bill out of a committee in a state, you talk about focusing the mind on the debate. We are reacting all the time. We've got to start setting the ground rules. Because when we don't do it, the media fills our heads with all these made-up stories from everywhere. And you have a nation of 300 million people, there's going to be some bad stuff that happens from time to time. but it should not just hijack everything we do and try to do and want to do and need to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
I forgot to make this announcement earlier. I see, next Tuesday night, 7 o'clock, in the Adams County Courthouse, there will be probably 30 to 50 organized labor people of state and private and whatever, wanting Rebecca and Lyle and myself to vote down Governor Rauner's proposals. If any of you would like to come and offer some moral support on a very tough decision, but arm yourself, because if you do show up, we probably ought to warn the sheriff, because there will be words. It will be a rough meeting, whether you show up or not.
Where will the space
Thank
be,
you.
John?
Say again?
Where would we all fit if there's 50, would they? Okay.
And I'd recommend showing up early, if you want a space.
As you know, the primary, this 18th Congressional District is July 7th, correct?
Yep.
Okay, that's when the election is. So you're going to listen to the debates, you're going to listen to all the candidates out there, and I encourage everyone to listen to them and get their viewpoints. But the things you really have to remember is, what do you really want out of this election? As conservatives, what do we want? And the question is, do we want a leader who's going to continue to dictate to us how we want us to be led? Or do we want leaders who inspire us to lead ourselves? That's the two questions we have to ask ourselves. So get involved, get out there, and at this point, on behalf of myself and the Visit Tea Party, we express our gratitude for all you being here tonight. And at this point, I'd like Mickey Coaston to come up.
Starting pretty soon.
Early voting starts in May. Okay, I thought it was the 28th, but maybe
It's
but
earlier. It's
anyway, towards the end of May, so you can go to the courthouse and vote anytime you want to during the whole month of June.
Early voting starts May 22nd. Mickey Coaston's going to lead us in our song tonight, God Bless America.
Please rise, and also don't forget to take some signs home if you want to put a sign for Mike in your front yard.